you from your four. So I'm sorry. So we do have a quorum, Catherine?
We do, and we also have a couple, at least one new member I see that's joined us as well.
Great. Okay, well, welcome everyone. We'll start the meeting at 5:30. We've got an agenda that includes a report by the Tim Smith of the Franklin County Industrial Development Corporation. And we also are going to be confirming municipal plans, and we will have a report on the audit, which I think now is completed. It's been a long process, but we'll hear about that. So first off, are there any adjustments to the agenda that anybody has? All right.
The only
Hearing
thing
none-
I'll note, I'm texting Tim right now. I'm not entirely sure he knows that we changed our start time to 6:30 instead of 7. So I'll text him
Oh,
now, and we may end up switching the order a little bit if he
sure.
wasn't aware of
Okay. No,
He's
that's fine.
always fashionably late.
Yeah. Okay, so next we'll go through introductions, and as usual, I'll identify towns and please weigh in for those who are here on behalf of various towns. Starting out with Alberg Town.
Hi, I'm Danielle. I'm hot off the press as of after town meeting this year. So I'm also on Albert's Planning Commission. So this is my very first meeting.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, Alberg Village. Bakersfield.
Bakersfield, Linda McCall.
Alrighty, Berkshire.
Hi, this is Joshua Grims from Berkshire.
Great. Enosburg Falls. Enosburg Town. Fairfax.
Barbara Murphy from Fairfax.
Fairfield. Fletcher. Franklin.
Lori Rupel from Fletcher.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry about that. Yeah, okay. Unmute so you can jump right in there when it's your turn. So Franklin.
I did hear from Yvonne, and he apologizes he got called into work.
Georgia.
Carl Rosenquist from Georgia. Okay.
And Kirk Waite from Georgia as well.
Grand Isle.
Barclay Morris from Grand Isle.
Howard Demars, Grand Isle.
Highgate.
Jack Balke from Highgate.
Isle Lamont.
Sylvia Jensen, Isle of Mine.
Montgomery. North Hero.
North Hero.
Mike Curtis, North Hero. And he didn't say your name.
Richford. St. Albans City.
Chip Sawyer, City of St. Albans.
Elizabeth Nance, City of St. Albans.
And I skipped over Sheldon. St. Albans Town.
Megan Sherlin for the town of St. Albans.
South Hero.
Bob Bierman.
And Peter Zamor. Swanton Town.
Nicole Draper, Swanton Town.
And Swanton Village.
Heidi Brish-Valenta.
Okay. Do the staff want to identify themselves?
I'm Sean.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'm Sean Coleman, senior planner.
I'm Cliff Jenkins. I'm the water project quality manager.
I'm Dean Pierce, senior planner.
Bethany Remmers, assistant director.
Okay.
And Catherine Dimitrick.
Oh, sorry.
And I think we have Kathy too, right?
Kathy Lavoy, special projects.
I just got a chat note that there's another representative from Swanton Village.
Damon Broderick.
Great. Okay, I think that covers introductions. Next is the minutes of the February 2004 meeting.
I know that there is at least one member of the public I see here, and I
Okay.
don't want to skip over public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed
No, it's
it.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I saw Matthew here. Yeah, Matthew LaFleur.
Matthew, do you have anything to say?
No, nope, nothing to comment on.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. So now minutes of the February 2025 meeting. Is there any motion?
I'll motion to accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion or corrections to the
Yeah, I
minutes?
would like to recommend that we make a correction under where the boards give their message. Under the finance committee, it's not clear. It wasn't the intent of what I said. I think it would be clearer if it said the finance committee and staff continue to work on getting to a final draft of the audit and plan to bring to the full board for our March meeting.
Okay. Any other comments or suggestions? Okay, hearing none, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I do the motion and second accept that change.
I do.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. I've got to slow down sometimes here. So the motion carries as amended.
And one abstention.
One abstention. Okay. Thank you, Barclay. Next are the committee reports. And we'll start out with they're in the book, but if anyone wants to supplement anything, starting with finance and operations.
Peter, I'm going to slow you down again.
Okay.
Tim is here, so we don't need to jump ahead. I
Oh,
saw
he is
Tim
here.
showed up.
Ah, okay. Well then, go ahead, Tim Smith.
Thanks, Peter. For those who don't know me, Tim Smith, Director of Franklin County Industrial Development. I know most of you. I was asked to join your meeting tonight by Catherine to talk about priority projects. And to give you an overview, it's sort of it was an initiative that started with the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. I think probably as much to educate them about what's going on around the state. So every RDC in conjunction with the NRPC have come up with a list of priority projects for the year. We submit them in November, December timeframe. And then we have the opportunity to reevaluate and adjust the list of the top 10 come May. And so we've been doing this for 3 years. And what we do, we send out a request for projects to every community in the county, focused mainly on economic development. And I get that economic development is there's a wide definition. We all know that many aspects of economic development might include transportation, childcare, housing, workforce development. So there's many aspects to it. But what we tend to focus on in this, in creating the priority project list of the top 10 is mainly economic development projects, which is going to create jobs, have capital investment, among other things. So, Catherine, I don't know if if you've shared the list. Is that something?
I have not, Tim. I left that for you.
Okay. So I'll go through the list that we have now, which is the top 10. And so the projects come in, we evaluate them. And I say we, in the past, it was myself, Elizabeth Nance, when she worked in this office, and then Kathy Lavoy and Greta participated from the RPC side of things. So we sit down, we look at them, we all rank them accordingly to a number for a number of areas that have been created by the Agency of Commerce. Those items include project purpose and benefit, project timeline and milestones, project principal experience, regional need, and then what are some of the costs and financing gaps, in addition to job creation as well. So those are some of the main areas that we rank the project. And when we rank it, we then pull all 3 or 4 of those rankings together, and we come to an agreement on what those top 10 priority projects would be. If they're on the list, if those projects move forward and apply for grant dollars, either through Northern Borders Regional Commission or possibly EDA, then they get some additional points for being on that top 10 list. So let me just go through the top 10. If there's any questions. So the first one we have is the St. Albans Town Industrial Park, which is 93 acres with municipal water and sewer, 3-phase power and natural gas, and trying to develop that and attract new business to the area. The reason for that to be moved towards number 1, mainly due to the fact that there are no vacant buildings in Franklin County. So when we get inquiries, we have nothing to show. I share with people, we met with a Canadian company, back in November, and they were looking for a building to move into because they create pool amenities like you might see in a kiddie pool. And there's another business in town that was doing the powder coating for them. So they wanted to be near his business, but they didn't want to wait 18 to 24 months to have a building built. So 3 months later, they bought a building in Plattsburgh. We had nothing to show for new interested businesses. The second one ranked as Montgomery Village Septic, water and septic, that they've been working on for a number of years with the volunteer efforts of Charlie Hancock. That was number 2. Fairfax Water and Wastewater Project was number 3. We worked with Sarah Had before she left that position. Number 4 was site. Let's see town of Venusburg or Village of Venusburg was working on a solar project to offset costs with the electric utility. That's a tricky one because you don't have much job creation, but it still was able to move up. The next one was the Highgate Village Core. So they were ranked 5th. In Swanton, 6 South River was a rehab or the redevelopment of the Hotel Riviere. Number 7 was the Brigham Academy that Kathy's been working on. As have all of these, I believe everyone, staff from Northwest Regional Planning have had involvement on most of these. I know Greta was involved with the Highgate Village Core and the Common School up in Fairfield, East Fairfield, that I'll get to. But and Kathy's been involved, Brigham Academy, and other ones as well. So 6 South River Street was number 6. Brigham Academy, number 7. So in Bakersfield, the conversion of the old Brigham Academy into housing. The Common School in East Fairfield was 8. And 9 was the redevelopment in Swanton of 124 and 121st Street. And in 10th spot was the St. Albans Bay Village District, looking for water and sewer and improvements around that the Bay intersection and the Bay Park. So that those are the 10 that we came up with. We're not required to resubmit these or redo the list in May. We haven't gotten that far yet, but if we do, we'll go through the same process. We'll send out the list looking for projects. I think between Kathy, Greta, myself, and Elizabeth, when she was here, we have a pretty good feel for what the communities are doing. So not only do we have that knowledge, but we also send a form to every town and we follow up if we don't get a response back from them. So that's how we try to find out what's going on. The tricky thing in some of the smaller towns, we might get a form back that they want to replace a culvert on, North Road or whatever. And that doesn't really fit into the needs of what this survey is. It doesn't fall under, it does help infrastructure, but it doesn't do much for economic development. So it's tough to find those projects in the small towns that really have an impact on the list. But when you have infrastructure projects like Montgomery, Fairfax, Village of Venusburg, etc., it can make a difference to be on the list and then potentially get additional points when they apply for grants. Catherine, Greta, Kathy, feel free to, Elizabeth, tell me what I forgot. Open to questions. I would just like to say this is just another, I don't know all of you, but this is just another example of the collaboration between regional development and regional planning. I sit on the Greta's Brownfield Committee. We interact quite often through partners. Kathy and I talk regularly on a number of different projects. So we're fortunate to have the relationship that we do between the two entities, and I think the county benefits from that. So.
Sylvia?
Tim, thank you. Tim, can you give us some examples in the past of perhaps some successful projects that were granted money for small towns? Or is it really just defaulting to the higher population? Because we have a lot of small towns along the northern border.
I'm not Tim. But I am, part of my role at the Agency of Commerce and Community Development is reviewing NBRC Northern Borders applications statewide, and it is worth up to 10 points to be on that list. So if you're number 1, you get 10 points. If you're number 10, you get a point out of 50. So it can make a huge difference as to whether or not you get funded or not. We've funded projects in a lot of small communities through this. I think a lot of the RDCs, if not all of them, do a great job of reaching out to their communities. I know particularly in Franklin County in particular, and even Grand Isle, Alberg just got an award last spring. Highgate got an award. Montgomery's gotten an award. I think there was one in Grand Isle that got an award in the fall. So a lot of the small communities are represented on the RPP list, and we do take geographic distribution as a consideration. So it's not all, Chittenden County, Montpelier.
Right.
The large municipalities. So I think the small ones, and if you go on I can speak mainly to NBRC. If you go on their website, you can see a list of the projects that have been funded. And I think we're pretty proud of the communities that are represented.
Awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Yes, Sylvia, the one I was going to share was the one Elizabeth did, which is the extension of water and sewer from MVU High School up to the airport, the Highgate Airport. I think that ended up, correct me if I'm wrong, was about $2.5 million project for Highgate. Was big. They got EDA money as well as Northern Borders money. They got some state money as well. But Highgate's the one that comes to mind for me as probably one of the better examples of a small town benefiting from not only the priority list, but from grant dollars as well. And Montgomery, I can't say enough about Montgomery and Charlie Hancock and the amount of time he puts in as a volunteer to make Montgomery a better place.
Thank you,
Bob?
Tim.
Yeah, a couple of things. First off, South here, I had one a couple of years ago, so that extended the water line to allow us to build the pub. So that one actually did cause an economic growth because it generated jobs in another business. So, Tim, so Andy went through his projects last month. So I guess I kind of want to point out to the collaboration between both yours and the Islands Development Corporation with regional planning, because we kind of look at each other's lists and help prioritize each other's a little bit as we go through this process through Catherine's coordination. So I'd like to give you all a plug for that.
Thanks, Bob.
And I guess the other question is, do we have a feel for our current federal administration having an impacts on what we've got coming down the road for this year's stuff? Do you have any insight on that yet?
You talking to me?
You want me to
Any
take
of you.
that, Tim?
As I tell people, Bob, I have no clue. I mean, actually, it's the Community Development Finance Association sent out a very long and lengthy email of their expectations of where the impacts are going to be. I can send Catherine, I don't know if you saw that, but I can send it to Catherine. I shared it with my board last week. It's probably the best narrative that I've seen, which is all encompassing. It's a nice piece that is really an eye opener for folks. I can share that with you.
We have seen on the northern border side some shift in focus, like renewable energy projects, things that the new term or the current term is sensitive populations that include, so there's been some adjustments, and we've seen some projects that may have moved forward, but they don't fit the current administration's guidelines, particularly around green energy.
I just want to go back to Bob's comment about the relationship between Grand Isle and Franklin County as well. That I just met with the folks, Virginia Holloman and others from the clubhouse in Alberg. I think we're going to be close to financing their childcare facility with all free furniture and other aspects for childcare. When immigration building here in St. Albans closed their doors, everything was going to go into a dumpster. My neighbor who works for GSA had a contract, was responsible for a contract for $250,000 in dumpster contracts. And he made me aware of what was in the building, and that as a nonprofit, we were able to get it. So we FCIDC, along with Jim Cameron, were able to pull all that furniture, prevent it from going into the dumpster. And we've had it in storage up at the Energizer building for 3 years now, at least, I think. And we had some discussions with the clubhouse folks regarding funding. But this should save them, I don't know, $50,000, $75,000 is my guess. So that wouldn't have been possible if we weren't communicating between the two regions to know what's going on. So Andy's great in the islands. So we do interact quite a bit with the Northern Vermont Economic Development District as well. We meet 4 times a year. Catherine was responsible for bringing that to life again after, I think it's been 8 years now, possibly, when we lost the Economic Development Council of Northern Vermont. So a lot of stuff behind the scenes that maybe people will never realize, but the relationships are strong for sure.
Kirk?
Tim, this is a bit off topic, but it certainly impacts what you're working on and this topic. The Perigo shutdown in Georgia, I would invite any comments or insight that you may be able to provide there.
I should have known that was coming, Kirk.
Of course.
We have a discussion with local management this week. State met with them last week. We've talked about their willingness to potentially subdivide that back 20 acres that they clear cut for what was going to be the new plant and utilize that for for potential development as well. We're not we don't have any. We have very limited hope that they're going to stay. I mean, and if someone, from my understanding, if someone's going to buy it and continue to make baby formula, the equipment is dated and it makes it difficult to meet FDA standards when it comes to baby foods. So if someone buys a building and the process, the investment is going to be big to do a lot of replacements, and that's why they were looking at building a new facility, because it wasn't worth updating the existing one. And they were going to build a brand new plant on the backside, as I said. But at about the same time, they went and purchased a Nestle's plant in Wisconsin. And they made the decision right about the same time to put the Perigo plant on hold and invest in Wisconsin. And that happened in 2022, January of 2022. We've had some conversations. We understand that it can be, it still has value-added food capabilities. It could be a brewery. It could be something of that nature. But at the same time, it's not your traditional manufacturing plant like like a Vermont Precision Tools or a Barry Callebaut, where it's clear span and you bring your equipment in and set it up. They just have so many breakout rooms and offices for quality control, for chemistry. And then the towers the dryer towers are pretty much useless unless you're gonna use the dryers for some purpose. So it's a tough, they do have nice warehouses in the back that could be utilized as well. But it'll be a lot of long conversations for sure, Kurt.
Yeah, I mean, it's for the region, it's a 400 job loss, right? So it's a big deal.
No doubt. And I would say they've offered a nice severance package. If they've been there, it's a year salary and benefits after the fact, after you've been released. They are offering opportunities in their other plants, but I'm not sure how many people will choose to move out of the area. A concern for us as Franklin County Industrial Development is I serve as the chair of the Georgia Industrial Development Corporation, and we invested 8 years ago, as Carl knows, in upgrading. We had a $2 million upgrade on the water plant. If you look at the water plant, we can produce about 250,000 gallons of water, of which Perigo will take 98% of it. So now we have a water plant, the other two businesses, and so we only cover the business park, the industrial park, Perigo, Med Associates, and Bariatrics, and we're only supplying 10-15,000 gallons a day to the other two entities. So that's something we have to look at. I go to the Georgia Select Board meeting here soon, and I'm sure we'll talk about the potential for utilizing the water plant for village water at some point. Perigo does have a wastewater plant. It's meant for more chemical than organic waste, but I believe it can be converted. So that's another opportunity potentially for Georgia. So those are all long-term discussions,
Mhm.
but they're on the table for sure, to make sure Perigo knows that there's value there. And for us, like I said, we have a state-of-the-art water plant we can produce up to 250,000 gallons of water a day. Offhand, I don't know how many households that would supply, but we've got a great.
It could help if we can't replace the business. It could help with some of the housing issues we have in the region. So,
Yeah, no, there's definitely opportunities for sure.
thank you for your insight, Tim. I appreciate it.
No problem, Group.
Any other comments?
Just as an aside, even though it might be obvious, Vermont Department of Labor, I've interacted with them as Tim may have, and certainly they're interacting with the Perigo team in an effort to support the employees.
And to Kurt and Kathy's point, there's still a lot of openings in manufacturing throughout Franklin County and Chittenden County for that matter. That no one since COVID, I don't think very few, if any, have reached 100% of employment capacity. I think everyone's always looking, and I think that those numbers are still out there for almost every manufacturer.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Our next item is to go through commission reports and for folks to add anything they want to from what's in the written reports, starting with finance and operations. Kirk.
So I think what's there is accurate. In addition, we do plan to meet in April to review and discuss a mid-year budget adjustment. And we also are hoping to review the document that will be sent out to get bids to do our FY 2025 audit.
Personnel, Bob?
Personnel did not meet.
Executive, I just wanted to add, in addition to the items that are in the written report, we discussed a recent analysis of the regional planning commissions done by the National Association of Development Organizations at the request of the legislature. And they generally concluded that the RPCs are doing well, that they're performing their obligations, that people are working at a high level. But one interesting recommendation that I assume will be analyzed by either the RPC group or the legislature is the concept of council of governments, which is a concept whereby the RPCs would begin to work more closely with municipalities in providing services. Having shared services that would be jointly provided by the municipalities and the RPCs. And so moving more from the planning perspective to one implementing. And I assume that that's something that's going to be considered at some point down the road. Catherine, I don't know if you wanted to mention anything about that.
I think you summed it up really nicely. It is definitely something that has been discussed and will continue to be discussed more. There was a bill introduced this session to enable regional planning commissions to transition to COGS if the regional commission should choose to do so. I don't expect that to see any action this session, but I do expect it will have some conversation over the summer and fall with the regional governance study that was put on hold slightly, but should be picking back up again. So more to come on that one.
Great. Project review.
So project review, I guess two things. Our chair is no longer part of regional planning, so we're looking for a new chair, which I guess, Catherine, we didn't say it, but does that also mean we're looking for another member to join project plan review?
That could be too.
And it'd be great if you wanted to be chair too. We did review, we had a meeting, we did review 3 projects, and none of them had regional impact. So I I don't know if you need me to take time to go through them at this point. There's no action needed, and they were included in our report. So
Okay.
I'll leave it at that unless somebody wants me to go through the projects we did.
Thank you, Bob. The next one is Transportation Advisory Committee.
That happens to be the same chair, and we did not have a meeting.
Okay. Brownfields Committee.
We did not meet for March, but we will be meeting in April.
Regional Plan and Policy Committee.
We met in March and we are moving forward with the regional plan update process. And at the end of the meeting today, we have 2 town plans for a regional for approval.
The Vermont Economic Progress Council.
There was a meeting and it was, I think, put in the minutes, but there's another one tomorrow that I'll attend. And I think that that's the one where they're going to have the annual report on the TIF overview. So have more to bring back from that.
Green Mountain Transit.
The question.
Yes.
Barbara. Barbara, with the TIF, did I hear you say it's TIF?
Yes.
And it's your annual report on all the TIF districts?
Well, I'm new to this, but I represent us on the board that addresses those. And my understanding at the last meeting was all of the regions have to send in their annual reports on where their TIFs are at, and that's the report that's compiled and that we'll be hearing of tomorrow, is my understanding. But Catherine might have a clearer picture of it.
Well, why I ask is it's because I wear another hat. It's called school board of a unified district and also our supervisory union. One thing that's become that I've become more educated on is the impact of TIF district funding on education tax. That 80% of improvements made in a TIF district, the education tax is collected, 80% goes back to the town. And so I think it has a significant impact. As we all know, education taxes keep going up, but there's a significant impact because many of these are millions and millions and millions of dollars that are invested, and they're necessary investments. I totally get that. I'm just beginning to wonder again if the funding mechanism is the appropriate one, because it's economic development and yet it's using educational tax dollars to fund it. So just curious about that.
Yeah, I don't have a complete comprehensive understanding of the TIF program. My understanding of my position on that board is that I represent our Northwest Regional Planning Group, and until we actually have a TIF in our region, I don't even get to be in the meetings. They do much of the work in executive session when it's a project really being presented. And I also believe there is a sunset on that return of monies, that the money that goes back for the reinvestment, I think it's a 10-year window. Again, Catherine, correct me if I'm just throwing weird numbers out there.
Help.
Chip has raised his hand, and I'm going to let Chip speak to that because the city does have a TIF district.
Yes, thank you, Chip.
Yeah, I understand your concern, Sylvia, when it's described how the debt service for local projects is paid for with tax increment financing. But the fact of the matter is that your typical tax increment finance district actually increases the amount of money that goes to the education fund, because the TIF projects increase the grand list, they increase tax revenues. At least 25% of those new increment revenues do go to the education fund, and 75% or less are kept by the municipality to pay the debt service on the projects. And all the money that otherwise would have gone to the education fund continues to go because it's only based on the increment from new property development based on the projects, not from it. It doesn't take any existing revenues that were going to the education fund before.
I understand that, and maybe it's best to have maybe Catherine for a future meeting, an explanation about TIF districts would be to get smarter about it, because what my concern was, Chip, and you're an excellent resource, is that if the town starts collecting money from those improvements because of the increased development, is that they get to benefit from that, and they also get to benefit the 75 to 80% reimbursement on those improved taxes collected on the improvement that occurred in the district during that time. I just wonder, is that like double dipping?
No,
Or
because the town only keeps the 75%. They're not keeping anything else. It's all going to the
no, but
education
you're
fund.
keeping the revenue that's generated for, let's say, big housing projects. You have a lot of housing going on in the St. Albans City, and now you all of a sudden get a 40-unit housing that's coming on. Well, you've got 40 more housings that are connecting to water and sewer. So the city is making more money with the water and sewer billing, yet you're also getting 75, 80% of that housing and that housing development of the property taxes that would have been collected on that housing development. That's all I'm saying, is you're getting the revenue, but you're also getting the education tax, a significant portion. I mean, has there been any discussion that it could be 40% instead of 80, 75, 80%?
Well, I think there's a little concern too, just to jump in, Sylvia, that it's to pay the bond. It's because the municipality put the money up front to get the project. And I think you're overlooking maybe the cost of the water systems and stuff, that it's a user payment. It's not a straight cream. It is something that the board the meetings I've been at, they do give a pretty good presentation of the benefit to the greater region for any of these projects. It's not really just to that particular municipality that took the risk.
Yeah,
And
the municipality.
Barbara, maybe you could just share that report, and I'd be happy to share it with the board. I think that would be useful for
That would be
folks to see.
great.
Yeah, I'll share what I get tomorrow when they make that presentation.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you, Catherine, so that it can be, and I know it would be made public too. So if anyone wants
Yeah.
to just go to the ACCD website, there's a lot of information there, Sylvia, that gives a clearer picture. It is a bit murky, but and there's a little bit of a why are they getting the benefit, but there's a risk factor too that's played into it. So.
Yeah. Well, Barbara, I really appreciate, and Chip, your time, and everyone in this meeting, because it's really hard when we're trying to reduce our budgets and we're eliminating teachers, and then you start looking, well, where's the education funding? Because most of us are sending towns, right? And so it's just really hard to cut positions, elementary positions, when you're in rural towns that are doing most of the tuitioning higher grades. And yet you're hearing about, yes, economic development investment is important. Just wondering if, the education tax, the property tax is funding, maybe there's another opportunity to fund that economic development opportunity other than using education tax money. But that's it. I'm not going to talk anymore. Can you tell I had a school board meeting last night? Thanks, folks, for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sylvia. Next is Green Mountain Transit.
Green Mountain Transit, our last meeting, we did kind of two things. One was reviewing the audit, same as we're doing here with our board. And the second one was another round of cuts to try to meet the budget for next year. So again, service adjustments driving to a tighter budget.
Healthy Roots Advisory Committee. Okay.
We didn't meet in March. Sorry,
oh.
I was on mute.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I will note that we have invited Healthy Roots to come and give an update at the April board meeting, since it's been about a year since the board decided to transfer that to CVOEO.
Great. Northwest Vermont Regional Foundation.
Nothing to report.
And staff have anything they want to talk about? Okay, that's it for the committee reports. And now we move to the audit. And I guess Kirk, you'll kick things off.
Sure. So, hello, everyone. So every year we have an audit. So this discussion is on our FY 2024 audit. An audit was performed by HR Smith and Company. You should have all received lots of reading material from Catherine and others this week. I think you have a draft of the audit, the management letter, and an audit summary explanation that Bethany put together, and you should have received sometime today. Let me talk about some highlights first. The audit was successful. The audit did not identify any deficiencies in our internal controls that might be material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. The NRPC has a fund balance of $780,921, which helped them and us make a statement that the Northwest Regional Planning Commission is in strong position to meet our current and future financial needs. We're in a strong financial position from both an assigned and unassigned fund perspective. Our net position year over year increased by $318,351 for a total net position of about $1.5 million. There are a few suggestions that were made in a management letter that you received. Staff and the finance committee are reviewing these to see if we should recommend any changes in these areas in policies or procedures, but there was nothing egregious in any way pointed out there. The team learned a lot going through this audit. I'll just briefly talk about a few of the lowlights. The audit was late and required a much higher level of review than we have experienced before. There were errors in the first drafts of the audit that we received from the audit firm. It took considerable staff time to resolve those errors and get to an understanding of those errors. I really want to thank Amy Adams for all of her efforts in preparing for the audit and providing information for the audit as needed. I want to thank Bethany Reimers for her leadership and deep dives into the data to find the errors that were in the first drafts of the audit. I want to thank both the staff and the finance committee for standing firm on our need to understand the audit and not accept the first drafts. And, you know, as I reflect, I'm also thankful for the organizational change that took place that put Bethany Reimers in a financial leadership position and really provided her with the focus that was necessary to bring this to conclusion. This is an action item tonight. The Finance Committee and Executive Committee are looking for full commission to accept the results of the audit. And to that end, I would like to make a motion that we, as a full board, accept the draft audit and that it move to its final form.
I would second that motion.
Discussion? Hearing none, Bob?
I just have a comment, Kirk, that you talked about errors in the initial draft, but I think we should emphasize those errors were actually made by the auditor, not by us.
Yeah, I thought I said that, but if I didn't, that we received from the audit firm, they did make errors in how they handled our accounts receivable and deferred revenue. But we found it and we believe that the numbers as presented now are reflective of our actual position.
Art, do you know how many errors there were?
Bethany would have to talk to that because she was the one that found them. But it really did come down to how they were handling the math on deferred revenue in our accounts receivable. And I don't know how many specific situations there were.
And the reason I'm asking is they happen to also be our town's auditors. So, you know, just a little concern there.
Yeah, I understand your concern and would share it.
Good to know. Thank you.
And I don't want to get into the gory details, but I don't know the number of errors, but I can tell you from a magnitude of what the errors would have had on our bottom line, it would have resulted in about $193,000. Actually, no, double that because it was 2 years, about 400 some $1,000 of value being taken from our net position. So it was sizable.
Yeah, it was very sizable.
Thank you. Thank you both for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Any further comments? Hearing none, I guess we're ready for a vote. All those in favor of accepting the audit signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Thank you all for hard work that went into that. As I sat in on a finance committee meeting, and it was really amazing how dedicated our staff is.
And I think we should take a moment to recognize Kirk in his role as Finance Committee Chair. This was not an easy process to navigate with a very difficult firm, and it was great from a staff perspective to know that we always had the support of the treasurer and the full Finance Committee. So that was extremely helpful, and want to express our thanks.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, I for another meeting, I'm sure, but I did notice on the at the beginning of the report Bethany sent out, which was marvelous. Thank you again for what you all did. It does speak to us having hired these folks for up to a 3-year, and I'm presuming up to means we're not held to that we could actually look for someone else if we were that dissatisfied.
We absolutely intend to look for someone else, and that's why we're going out for new bids.
Fantastic.
Okay. The next item is plan approvals. And I think Megan Sherland, are you going to lead that?
Yeah, sure. I can talk about the plan approval that we need to do here. So this is based on the findings for regional approval and the confirmation included in the board's packet tonight, and considering any comments that were received at the duly warned public hearing on today, March 26, 2025, the Plan and Policy Committee recommends that the Board of Commissioners grant regional approval to Grand Isle Town Plan 2025 through 2033 and the Alberg Plan 2025 through 2033, and confirm the planning process of the town of Grand Isle and the town of Alberg in accordance with 24 VSA section 4350.
And so you're making that motion?
I can, yeah. So additionally, beyond that, I guess I will be the one to make the motion to regionally approve both of those plans and confirm the planning process.
I will second.
And these motions, I believe, are spelled out in the board book that went out. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Point of order. I don't believe we can do the confirmation in the same order that we approve the plans, because confirmation requires the plans to be approved.
We've always
Catherine,
done
you
it that
got-
way, Bob, but we did look into it and we've decided that we can do it in one motion.
Oh, great.
So we're
All right,
trying,
thank
so we've been working to try to streamline this for the board. So that's why we did look into it a little bit more, and we're comfortable now we can do it in one motion.
But this does not include the determination of energy compliance. That'll be a next.
Because that
motion.
has to be separate.
Okay.
Because that's an
Great.
entirely separate process.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, any other comment? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. And now the energy compliance determination.
Yep. So I'll also make the motion to grant the determination of energy compliance to the town of Grand Isle.
Second,
I'll second.
any comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. So I think that takes us to commissioner announcements. Anybody have anything they want to announce?
Catherine, have any updates on legislature you'd like to share?
I do have a couple of legislative items I could share. I also wanted to put in a plug for volunteers to do a municipal spotlight at our next few board meetings. I've really enjoyed hearing from our last few communities, and I would love to have a few more commissioners volunteer to talk about what's going on in their community for the upcoming board meetings. So email me or you're going to hear from me volunteering you sometime soon. Legislatively, so far from a budget perspective, the budget that's going to the House floor this week includes a slight increase for our base regional planning funds, which is great. And it doesn't include continuation of the municipal technical assistance program, which was part of the governor's budget. I don't know what will happen in the Senate, but that was a great program that got some nice projects for Isle of Mont and Berkshire. And from a policy perspective, we're following the housing. There's two housing bills, one that's in the Senate and one that's in the House. And they're pretty light on municipal or regional planning or zoning items. They do include, one of the bills includes a change that would allow municipalities to adopt bylaw changes without going through the full process if they are to implement a change in state statute. And the other change would be to change the appeal. There's a provision now where 20 people can band together an appeal, and that would go away, and it would just have to be a particularized interest. So those are really the two pieces that impact municipal planning or regional planning. And then finally, there is a stormwater bill that's looking at the 3-acre permit. And it does a few things, one of which is to delay the implementation date out by a couple of years to give a little more time to implement the changes. And it also develops a set aside within the Clean Water Fund for funding the improvements to those projects when a municipality will be taking on the stormwater permit responsibility. So the RPCs are offering some testimony on that bill next week.
Any other commissioner announcements? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thanks
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you.
Bye. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.